we need to believe as Ugandans that there are also manufacturers locally that can actually produce goods that we can consume. We must believe that the same brains that put together an idea coming from this country should be able to provide a product that is actually good enough for us.
Yes. Our traditions from the
Correct.
past are now being appreciated more than they were before.
It's one thing that Ugandans need to know, that it's not about color. We need to be proud about our identity as a country, as Africans. Before manufacturing a product, you need to identify whether there is market for that particular product. And when you carry out a market feasibility study, you're looking into, first of all, is there demand for that product?
In this conversation, a strategist shares their top concerns and priorities, highlighting the importance of ensuring that the brands and companies they represent are on a successful growth trajectory.
Dear Patriots, welcome to another episode of the podcast segment on marketing. We're very excited because we have a business developer, a strategist consultant within marketing, Richard Musani. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's such an honor. We got into the conversation and he was already giving me advice on how to brand a podcast, how to develop it so that brands can appreciate and want to affiliate with the podcast. What keeps you up at night as a strategist?
I think what is most important and keeps me up and running is to ensure that the brands I represent and on behalf of the companies I work for are actually in the right trajectory. And it's all about all the initiatives, ideas that would ensure that the brands that I'm representing are in a positive trajectory in terms of growth.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have experience in FMCG, you have experience in automobile. How did you get into it? Was it school? Did you study marketing? How did your journey start?
Yeah, I think first of all, I happened to do a very different educational degree. So I did the Bachelor's of Administrative Science from Changuva University. That in itself was supposed to take me into the humanities disciplines. But right after the university is now when I discovered, of course, while at the university, I was also a very passionate person about leadership. At the university, I had various guild leadership responsibilities, and I was a spokesperson for the university as a guild minister for information at Changuva University. So when I came into the career marketplace, then I began to realize that I was somebody who needed to speak for a brand, who needed to build a brand. My whole thought process about how I needed to commence my career changed. So I started off and I went into the sales and marketing discipline. Unfortunately enough, I right away began with the media. At that time I was hired as an executive to develop a brand called the media. They were into something called what we popularly call now out-of-home communication.
Yes.
So they were largely doing printing work in terms of communication instruments. We're talking about billboards, street pole signs, anything you would use in an out-of-home communication. This allowed me the opportunity to interface with brands that were yearning for visibility. I admired that time in my career because I was offering solutions. And I think one story for the people that were there in the years was when Warren Telecom had just launched in this market. I remember a very good solution for how they will actually use out-of-home instruments, the branding of their offices, and also utilizing transit advertising for placing their brand in the face of Ugandans. That's how I began and I realized marketing was fun. And on there, I drifted a bit from there. I went into the automobile. And of course now this time trying to develop sales and marketing for automobile. It's a bit limited because when you get into the automobile, it's more of a business to business. Now, business to business, it implies it's largely more of personal selling than it is with your demand creation instruments. And that's when I went into marketing. I did my master's from Macquarie University in marketing, and I also went in for my CIA.
Wonderful. Before you continue there, I love the fact that you continue learning. Yes. I also noticed you're a chartered marketer, and now you did a master's.
Yes.
It's nice to see where you came from your role as a spokesperson of the guild, Council, which contributes then later in the future. I don't know if that's how you connect the dots.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see for that patriot who's listening today that they need to know that what they're doing today will have a direct impact in what probably the opportunities in the future will have to offer.
Yeah.
It's somehow correlated in
Yes.
that sense. You talked about your experience with Warid and all the other brands. I looked at your experience with FMCG and now automobiles.
Yeah.
I can assume a lot of these also have international connections, right?
Yeah.
And selling FMCG products, which are normally household items,
Yeah.
which are normally cheaper, and now having to sell high value products, which are cars, you mentioned what B2B,
Yeah.
directly selling to businesses. What was the shift in your operations from justifying value of smaller products?
Yes, I actually now I was giving you the driving factor for me to drift from a bit of automobile, which was a bit of the commencement of my career,
Yeah.
to fast moving consumer goods. It's now when I went to marketing school. So when I went into marketing school, I realized that there was lesser of marketing work done in an automobile business. I wanted to ensure that I begin to transform my knowledge that I had acquired from marketing school and my master's class into actual practice. So I felt I was being limited. And this now when I began to pursue opportunities in the fast moving consumer goods. And that now takes me to becoming a brand manager, marketing manager, and head of marketing for Movit Products.
Yeah.
Which is one of the large establishments in terms of cosmetics within the African setup. Of course, it gave me a rich opportunity to put into practice marketing. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges the Movit brand had when I joined was that there was negative perception about the brand. There was a belief by beautiful ladies as yourself that the products that we would use should be imported products, and there was an overall negative perception towards locally manufactured cosmetics. And I felt it was going to be a very big marketing challenge, and my role now was to ensure that I transform that kind of negative perception to ensure it is positive and improve the brand equity.
Yeah, very big on localization.
Yes.
Why is it important?
Yeah, so the localization aspect was, of course, an issue of there has to be a bit of brand equity. We need to believe as Ugandans that there are also manufacturers locally that can actually produce goods that we can consume. This is how the developed country markets are actually developed far better than us, because it starts with a mindset change. We must believe that the same brains that put together an idea coming from this country should be able to provide a product that is actually good enough for us.
Absolutely.
This is when we should be able to ensure we get a bit of a favorable balance of payment in terms of ensuring that we get into what we are commonly referring to as import substitution industrialization, ensuring that we are importing lesser and actually exporting more. It starts with Uganda to think about the same minds that are sitting in these factories are Ugandans. They are schooled enough, they have the right knowledge, and they can be able to produce a product that is good enough for us.
Yeah.
So that was an issue. We had to develop the Movit brand and tell Ugandans the same cosmetics you have in the shelves that are be as an equivalent of that is actually manufactured locally. I'm happy to say that we did great brand building initiatives, including utilizing something that we used to come to Uma. We had a lot of trade exhibitions there, just to ensure we demystify the fact that these locally manufactured products are not good enough as compared to the foreign products. So this evolved from a marketing perspective a lot of consumer demonstration. And we had to do experiential programs all around the country. And of course the channels to these experiential programs were exhibits, product exhibitions, which would be through trade fairs, but also ensuring that we talk to the mind of the consumer through various communication channels as radio. And I'm happy to report that even as we speak now, I think Movit is one of the largest brands that this country has in terms of cosmetics. Yeah, and of course I've had to also do a couple of consultants assignments for other fast-moving consumer good products that I think are also thriving in the market.
I love that you've given us a picture on what brands had to do to change the mindset of the consumer.
Yes.
But from where you see, how are the consumer trends or how are the consumer mannerisms changing with the times?
Yes, of course, as time has moved, you must complement the government efforts in terms of standards, focusing on quality standards and ensuring that there's a body able to regulate, support the manufacturers in meeting both local and international standards. That now we are now beginning to begin to see local manufacturing enterprises developing brands that are now being accepted. If you go into the construction sector, we are seeing most of the locally manufactured brands being utilized in the real estate industry, which is very interesting. And also when you look into the fast moving consumer goods, your personal care products are now being locally manufactured. And I think that's a very big plus for Ugandans, because it's the only way that we can actually go. Because getting into importing a matchbox, a washing soap, or a cosmetic is a disservice to our country.
That's true. One of the guests on the podcast said that back in the day, a lot of women wanted to bleach their skins, but now there's a movement for Africans, especially women, to appreciate their skin color and not try to color their initial melanin. Personally, I think we have quite a lot of rich, like those local plants that our great grandparents used for skin, or even just milk. So if you have local industries actually utilizing our raw materials or local resources, then it can only build to our already existing.
Yes, and I like the point that you've just mentioned, that we had a lot of imported cosmetics that had a lot of bleaching in, and we had to begin see Ugandans changing. I'm happy for the local manufacturers, especially that there is zero tolerance to producing products that bleach skins, because we are proudly African. And black is beautiful. It's one thing that Ugandans need to know, that it's not about color. We need to be proud about our identity as a country, as Africans. You mentioned the issue to do with using plants in production of these cosmetics. You know now that if you go into some of the products that manufacturers, you'll see them utilizing avocado, aloe vera, these kind of things. I mean, it's beautiful to have just type of extracts, plant extracts being utilized in the manufacture of these products. And of course, we need to discourage, in the best way possible, efforts to manufacturing farms to be actually manufacturing products that have some element of bleaching agents. I'm seeing there's a lot of research going on with that, and I'm told that whatever cosmetic products have some bleaching agents are actually responsible for some of the cancers that we are getting.
Absolutely.
So I think there needs to be a little bit of consumer education on this kind of thing, to tell out to the ladies that this that you're putting into yourself is actually a danger. It's not actually a good thing that they need to do.
Absolutely. You're already preaching to the converted. For that patriot listening in, they want to scale their business. From a business development point of view, you're a consultant, highly sought after. What are the mistakes they should be looking out for when they're trying to scale?
I think the first thing is what we get to do, depending on what we're looking into. If you're looking into going into manufacturing and going to introduce a product, the most important thing at the onset is to carry out a feasibility study. Before manufacturing a product, you need to identify whether there is market for that particular product. And when you carry out a market feasibility study, you're looking into, first of all, is there demand for that product? Number two is whatever products that have been manufactured to address that particular demand. You look into a deficiency in that kind of product. Now, when you look at the deficiency in that kind of product, this becomes now your unique value proposition. So you are now going to develop a product that has a unique identifier. It adds some element of value to what is missing in whatever products are being in the marketplace. And then I think after you've done that kind of thing, and then you walked into now the actual product development process, which is now R&D and product development, and then you also need to ensure that there's unique quality control in the one and the standards that are expected out of that product. So that's now your stage 3. And after you've made local standards, ensure that you're building a product. If you're looking it for a regional market, then also ensure that you're also meeting the standards within the regional market. Now, what's important is getting a vehicle to ensure that this product is moved from your production house into the shelves. And that is now the issue to do with demand planning. I think what we have done wrongly is a lot of sneaking of products. I know that organizations needs to look into proper product launches. So if you have a brand, you need to launch it into the market. People need to know. And once you're launching, you are really focusing on what I mentioned and the feasibility, the unique value proposition. We know that there are so many sanitizers out in the market, but we have built and developed a product as a sanitizer but has A, B, C, D improvements.
Yeah.
Or we know that there's this type of soap that has been in the market. We've built ours, but probably it has this type of fragrance or whatever. And that in itself ensures that it provides the right foundation for your product and a foundation for uptake. Yes, and of course reduces the ability to fulfill.
Right, and when you came into the room, you started right away with a marketing strategy and telling me exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Mobit has a footprint in so many African countries.
Yeah.
And in terms of that entrepreneur watching right now, or the patriot,
Yes.
they want to scale into the different African countries. What sort of interesting points have you marked, for example, from the products? Are all the products for Mobits in Africa the same, or do we have different for different markets?
I want to say that part of the success story to create export markets for Movie, it is in my time when I was more involved in those years that I rolled out their products in various export markets, launching their products into Zambia. I did it, opening up the Burundi market. Those are the two markets I opened personally, and then I also grew their agency network.
Yeah.
The distribution network in Kenya, I think over 100%, so number of distributors. But what can somebody do, those who are listening to us, to ensure that they succeed in business world markets? I think the first thing is, from the product development perspective, there needs to be what you call a product adaptation. You don't standardize a product. So I'll give an example that Movit manufactured relaxer. Yeah, and so relaxers.
I see you looking closely to my braids.
Yeah, so the hair relaxers and products that you've seen that is actually utilized. Yeah, but once you're using a relaxer, there's a product type based on your type of hair.
Now that I'm old, I go to learn more about my hair.
Yes.
Type C, kinky C,
Yeah,
or D.
yeah. Now, so if you're using relaxer on the lady, there will be a lady that has harder hairs. And the Eritreans have a bit softer hair.
Yes.
Ethiopians have, Ugandans have a bit of medium, say that.
Yeah.
The Zambians have a relatively harder hair.
Really? Harder than you get?
Yes. So when you're now manufacturing a relaxer,
Yeah.
you need to ensure the strength of the relaxer needs to speak to the type of hair that you're addressing.
Yeah.
So that's an issue of product adaptation. Yeah, I think I wanted to make a funny example. There was a time that a particular condom called O, they manufactured this particular condom and they had a standard size that was being used across. But then there was an online complaint from our friends in Sudan that the specification was not fitting.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that is all. That is all.
I just remember the joke.
That is all an issue to do with the failure from the marketing side to carry out a survey and ensure that the product is adapted to that kind of market.
Yeah.
So I think what's most important, and now it's not only in the product development, it's also in the communication. So in communication, there is communication standardization and there is also communication adaptation. You have to do the same thing, both from product development and communication.
Thank you for listening in this far. I really hope that this conversation was helpful to you. Share this episode with your colleagues or friends that you think will benefit from this information. Let them know what you're listening to. Would you also rate our podcast? Because once you rate our podcast, other people like you are able to listen to this information and use it to their own benefit. On a lighter note, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We would really like to hear your thoughts.